we've been studying about Paul. And the guy fell out of the window last week and died. And Paul reassured everybody because God brought him back to life. And the guy was fine. Paul continued to go around visiting churches. And he told every church that he visited that he felt very strongly in his spirit he had to go to Jerusalem. Yet at every church he went to, there was prophecy that if he went to Jerusalem, he would be arrested by the Jews and he would suffer great things when he got there. In one service, there was a prophet named Agabus who, in looking around, found what the King James calls a girdle. I assume it's not the thing that women wear today to make themselves look skinnier, that it was more like a belt. And he found a belt, and he picked it up, and he tied his hands together with it. And he said, whoever owns this, this is what the Jews are going to do to you in Jerusalem. Well, it was Paul's. And Paul went ahead and said, I'm still going to go. And everybody, every time he left a church, everybody cried because in some cases he said, this is the last time you're going to see me. I'm never going to be able to come back here again. So they were not happy. He got to Jerusalem and he met with the Christians who were converted Jews there in Jerusalem. And he talked to them about what he was doing and about the Gentiles being saved. And he went to the temple to worship. When he did, the non-Christian Jews saw him there, and they began to throw a tissy fit, which sounds like a little thing until you figure there was probably hundreds, if not thousands of people there, and that many people throwing a tissy fit is a big deal. And they assumed that he had brought one of his Gentile friends into the temple with him, because they'd seen him walking around town with the guy. He hadn't, but they assumed he had, and that was a major violation of the rules for the temple, to bring a Gentile into the temple. So they were going to beat him to death. The Romans heard what was going on. The Romans were occupying Jerusalem at the time. And so the centurion in charge of the soldiers there sent the soldiers in and dragged Paul away from the people trying to beat him to death. And as they were dragging him up the stairs into the place where the soldiers, and it just slipped my head what it's called, the place where the soldiers stayed, Paul said, hey, let me talk to the crowd. And the centurion was surprised. He said, aren't you that Egyptian that a couple of years ago led 1,000 people out in the desert? And Paul said, no. I was born in Tarsus, and I'm a Jew, but I need to speak to the people. So the centurion said, okay, you can speak to the people. Paul stood up and he began to speak to the people, and he told them, he reminded them of their history. He told them about how that he used to persecute the Christians, about how that he approved of the martyr of Stephen, and how God brought him to salvation on the road to Damascus, and how he had been preaching to the Gentiles. And up to the word Gentiles, they listened to him. But when he said Gentiles, they threw such a fit, the centurion was afraid they were going to pull him in pieces. And they picked him up and carried him on into the building. And we're going to leave him right there for this week, because this is a significant part of Paul's life. So let's sing our song. I'm in right out, right up, right down, right happy all the time. I'm in right out, right up, right down, right happy all the time. Since Jesus Christ came in and cleansed my heart from sin, I'm in right out, right up, right down, right happy.
came